Kenyan government has been tasked with the target of collecting 3 trillion as a turnover for its revenue collection this year. At the heart of this debate today is, can our taxes in the Kenyan government alone free us from the shackles of public debt? Debating this motion in our senior finals is Nova Boys High School versus Maryhiil, and the motion reads, Kenya cannot rely on paying taxes as the main avenue to redeem itself from public debt. I repeat the motion again. Kenya cannot rely on paying taxes as the main avenue to redeem itself from public debt. Team proposition, first speaker, you have 3 minutes.
If my watch hasn't been lying to me, it's been merely 24 hours since we, the Maryhiil Girls High School, witnessed a disheartening, a dispiriting, a saddening occurrence on our way to St. Paul's University. Now, a truck loaded with beans worth 100 tons had overturned on the road, and people surrounding the premises were struggling to collect sacks of beans. Now, I could not give a more vivid picture of the suffering of our Kenyans today as a result of taxes. Now, Kenya cannot rely on taxes alone as the main avenue to redeem itself from public debts. Kalunda Darlin from the Maryhiil Girls High School proposing the motion, Kenya cannot rely on paying taxes as the main revenue to redeem itself from public debts. Now, what is a tax? A tax is a compulsory contribution to the state revenue levied by the government on workers' income and business profits, or added to the cost of some goods and services and transactions. In other words, a tax is a toll, an excise, or duty, meaning it's a moral or legal contribution. What is revenue? An avenue is a way of approaching a problem or making progress towards it. And in this case, main avenue is the main course of action. Now, to my first point, agriculture. Kenya has the highest agricultural productivity in Eastern Africa. It produces 70% of export of Eastern Africa coming from coffee and flowers, which accounts to 34.1 billion. Now, 85% of Kenyans living in rural areas are employed as a result of this agriculture. Now, assuming the government invests in agriculture, it means it grows the GDP by 5% annually, meaning the government grows its revenue, the government is able to stand on its feet, and the government is able to feed its needs and at the same time pay public debt. Now, if you're a great mathematician as I am, this has been a quite vivid equation, hasn't it? This means that it's simple mathematics. Once we earn revenue, we can be able to stand on our feet, we can be able to feed our needs, and we can be able to pay public debt. Thank you so much. This has been my time.
Team opposition, first speaker, you have 3 minutes.
My name is Victor Ocholi, and I'm here to strongly oppose the motion that states that Kenya cannot rely on paying taxes as the main avenue to redeem itself from public debt. First of all, I'd like you to understand that when we mean by is the main avenue, we're not putting away these other avenues that we can use to pay public debt. Rather, we're focusing and we're prioritizing taxes. Why are we prioritizing taxes? Because it has the capacity. First of all, they talked about agriculture and the use of agriculture to pay public debt. Yes, let's say that agriculture brings on the revenue 34.1 billion, and the employment and such. So the thing is, we're not saying when we prioritize paying taxes that we're going to say that agriculture will be put aside. It will still be there. The 34.1 billion will still be there. We're just saying that we prioritize taxes. Why are we prioritizing taxes? Because they have the capacity. First of all, the amount of money we get from taxes is 2 trillion. Let it sink in. 2 trillion opposed to their 34.1 billion, and the amount of public debt that we have is 10 trillion. So why are we focusing on paying taxes? This is because it has the capacity. Rather, we should focus on working on the systems at which we govern these taxes, and as which we go from these taxes and all the operations within this system. Because if we work on the system, that will make it a more effective way of approaching paying this public debt. First of all, to my first point, to my definitions, we'll talk about public debt. It's the financial liabilities of our government. This is indirect or international. So most of the time it is domestic. Domestic is 4.1 and international is 4.2. But rather than that, for my first point, I'll talk about the fact is that if we create a good structure and a good system that we'll be using to pay these taxes and pay this and be able to pay this public debt, we'll be able to reach a different approach. We'll be able to reach a different level. First of all, I'd like to talk about this country called Estonia. Estonia is a country in Europe that has the best tax system in the whole world. First of all, I'd like to talk about how it's, excuse me for 1 second. I'd like to talk about how it has the lowest public debt in the whole country, in the whole of the European Union. It has a public debt of 15.8% in relation to its GDP. So I'd like to put it to the Kenyan aspect. The Kenyan aspect is 67.55%. We have here 15.8% in Estonia and 67.55%. A country that has a good tax system, a country that has been able to come around and gather together and form a good tax system to be able to meet its public debt and be able to pay it, rather a country that has not yet fully developed, that has yet to develop it. But if we focus on beating this system and making this system, we'll be able to reach Estonia. Because the thing is, they could say that it's a first world country, and they could say that we are talking about developing countries and first world countries, but they did not just come and just say, they did not just form the country and have they did not just form the country and have a good tax system. It was formed by many years of forming it and refining it and tweaking it and making it have more advantages, thus leading it to have a lower public debt and to be one of the best countries with a good tax system. Thank you very much.
Second speaker, team proposition, you have 3 minutes.
Maryhiil, the Maryhiil girls, my time begins in 3, 2, 1. Now, allow me to dawn you to the fact that paying of taxes as the main avenue to redeem Kenya's public debts has proven futile over the years. Now, you're talking about taxes as the main avenue. We do not disagree that taxes should not be one of the ways to redeem our public debts. We are saying Kenya cannot rely on taxes. First of all, these taxes you're talking about have effects on the people. Kenyans are suffering already, and you people still want to go on with this. We are saying it's about time Kenya focused on other ways. Like what? Right now, Kenya is growing agriculture and it's also feeding industrialization. If we focused more on this, instead of wasting our time on paying of taxes, which has proven futile, we could change the scenario and clear our public debts. Now, on to my first point. The government can issue debts in form of bonds to raise money, most especially during times of crisis. This enables them to buy back the very bonds that were issued through a monetary policy called quantitative easing, which is used by central banks to increase the domestic supply and spur economic growth. What I'm saying is these bonds will be used to pay our public debts. Taxes is not the only way. It might be the way, yes, but we are providing much better ways because taxes have failed. And it's about time to change because your plans have failed. Secondly, we should institute spending cuts, which simply means to cut down expenses or basically finance management. Why? Without budget reforms, federal debts will rise continuously as a share of GDP in coming years, which will precipitate on economic crisis. Now, if we institute spending cuts on things like salaries, we could use this money to settle our public debts. Take example of a country like Canada. Canada faced a nearly double-digit deficit in the 1990s. They, however, overcame by instituting deep budget cost by 20% or more. And within 4 years, they reduced their budget deficit to 0. And within 3 years, they also cleared their public debts with, yes. Now, I want to make it clear that we are not saying that taxes should not be a means to redeem Kenya from the public debts. We are saying that taxes should not be the main way to redeem Kenya from public debts because, I repeat again, it has proven futile. And if something is not helping, Why do you keep on with it? It's about time, Kenya, you woke up. It's about time you woke up to the reality and notice that taxes are not really helping us clear our debts. And if they're helping, then we need to implore. I'm not saying they're not really. They are helping us clear our debts. And what we are saying, the Maryhill girls, is that taxes are not the main. Industrialization and agriculture are. And with that, I rest my case.
Second speaker, team opposition, you have 3 minutes.
My name is Hilary Dede from Nova Pioneer Tatu Boys, and I'm here to strongly oppose the motion that has been set on the table today. Now, what will I be doing? I'll be giving out a few points, but mainly will be rebuttals. Now, where would I like to start? They've talked about how they've seemed to misunderstood what we're talking about, and they've brought up a very good point by their second speaker about how, as a other thing we can use to get money is bonds. But what they fail to understand is bonds in it by itself is a debt. What happens? You go to the international companies, you go to the public companies, and you get a debt from them, money that you'll have to pay back. So their solution, in fact, is trying to cause us to sink deeper and deeper into the problem in by itself, which I don't seem to get. Now, they've talked about how the Kenyans are suffering due to taxes, but I'd like for you to understand that taxes, as of the current Kenya, work as pay as you earn, meaning that it works the economical classes. If you're earning 100 shillings a day, you're not going to be expected to pay 99 shillings as taxes. However, if you're earning 100,000 per month, then you're going to be expected to pay more than someone who's earning 10,000 per month, meaning that it's working with the economical crisis, meaning that Kenyans are not suffering due to the tax in by itself, right? They talked about how agriculture is a major thing that we should use. Yes, we will use agriculture. We'll use the money that comes from agriculture to help pay the public debt. However, right, what they fail to say is that agriculture only brings around 31 to 40 billion Kenyan shillings per revenue per year. However, taxes, as my first speaker has said, brings in 2 trillion Kenyan shillings per year. And with the amount of taxes with the amount of public debt that we have, shouldn't we focus on the one that brings in more revenue, so that we can work on bettering the economical status of the country and bettering so that we can get out of debt? Now, they've talked about how the major problem that we have with them is that they've not brought up viable ways that brings in more money. They've brought in all of these other sides, but they've not brought in viable ways. They've not managed to top our initial range of 2 trillion Kenyan shillings per year. They have failed to bring us up something that can give us more money, right? Meaning that we'll just continue sinking in public debt because we don't have enough money, since we're focusing on all these other things, right? And once we start focusing on all these other things like agriculture, what's going to happen? We're going to be spending a lot of money there, meaning that we need to borrow more money, meaning that we're sinking deeper and deeper into the problem of public debt, meaning that the proposition has not brought up a viable way for us to get out of this problem. They've not brought up a viable way for us to improve, right? A point that I'd like to bring up is over-reliance on other sources of revenue, such as natural resources and such, can be unpredictable and unsustainable. Taxes are in the constitution, meaning that people have to pay them, meaning that it's always going to be a constant stream of revenue. However, all of these other businesses are not, meaning at any time, at any day, they can just decide to crash.
We are at the heat of our finals, and the team proposition have been asked the question of how can they guarantee that we will be able to fast track the process of implementation of other forms of paying our public debt. Team opposition have been asked the question is, why do we still have riots, as much as we are saying that taxes are given or ideally obligated based on your tax bracket? Team proposition, you have 3 minutes on stage.
Even without my specs, I am convinced that for a nation to try and mainly tax itself into prosperity in the name of redeeming itself from public funds is like a man trying to stand inside of a bucket and trying to lift himself using the handle. My dear sons, I repeat again, it is simply not possible. Kanye Yvonne from the Maryhill Girls High School here to propose the motion. Now, to answer your question, understand as well. We are not removing the taxes. We are only introducing new ways. Therefore, there is no implementation that is needed by the government. We are introducing new ways that can be incorporated with the ways presented by my former people. I hope we've understood each other. He talked about something about how we, working with agriculture, we are just blah and blah and blah. So, I hope you understand that agriculture, the minute agriculture is not thriving good enough and agriculture is not providing enough funds, this is because the government is mainly concentrating on paying of taxes. But what if we decide to derive, we try and change the view of the government from paying of taxes, and the government decides to fund more the agriculture sector. Then if we fund more the agriculture sector will be able to rise up and will be able to curb the public debt. I hope you understand the strength of agriculture in Kenya. On to my point. If taxation alone is not the main avenue, if taxation alone as the main avenue cannot cope with redeeming itself from public debts, then what will? There's a virus I will not like to eradicate in Kenya, and this virus is called talent. What if we decide to invest in the talent inside the Kenyan system? I am very talented, and I believe I've infected a very good number of Kenyans with talent. Therefore, if we could, allow me to base in the major sectors of talent. We have athletics. What if we actually decided to empower more people and train more people into athletics? We could actually have more Eliud Kipchoge's, Usain Bolt, and Kiambu right there. We could actually have better of these people. So, do you know how much income we can actually get? If we actually, when we are so good at athletics, we can actually be given the platform to host. Hey, listen to that. We will host the Olympics, national prestige in it. Hey, do you understand the amount of income that we'll actually get if we actually get to host the Olympics? But someone still insists on making taxes the main way when we can actually try and empower athletics. So we can also, still in terms of talent, we can also empower the music and the film industry. This way, our youth will be able to develop their own potential, which will be able to conquer the Vision 2030. The minute we are able to empower music and film industry, we'll have thriving. In shows like Netflix, we're already thriving good under a show called The Real Housewives of ... in Showmax. Thank you so much for your time. That was my...
Third speaker, team opposition, you have 3 minutes.
My name is Michael Solomon, and I'm going to be the third opposer of the opposition side. What exactly I'm going to do is do mostly rebuttals, because I've just had nonsense being spoken for the past 15 minutes. Therefore, that being said, I'll move on to my rebuttals. The first speaker came here on stage and gave an analogy of beans. What in the world does beans have to do with public debt? Please, if you're going to use an analogy, use one that's relevant. If you can't, sit down in your seat and be quiet. Furthermore, there's also the issue that you want to bring things that are not compulsory. Taxes are compulsory. You didn't even give us solutions. You are trying to give us solutions that are not compulsory. They are susceptible to change in seasons. They're susceptible to in fluctuations, increases and decreases. So my question to the proposition is, are you really going to put such a large debt, over more than 1 trillion, in the hands of an uncertainty, in the hands of something that's not constant, in the hands of something that's subject to fluctuation? If that is true, looks like our mothers have become old and they need to go to the retirement home where they belong with their points. Furthermore, you kept on saying that taxes have failed. Ladies and gentlemen, taxes have not failed. The tax system just needs to be fixed. We can do this. If Kenya has managed to do great things for the economy, we've managed to build buildings that our ancestors would have never thought of, we've managed to build infrastructure that nobody would have ever imagined, we can also fix the tax system. It's not as hard as they're making it to be. And I would also like to emphasize on the point that they keep saying taxes are bad, taxes are this, taxes are that. As I said earlier, you have not given us a clear alternative. Give us a clear alternative to exactly what you think is right. And I would like to remind you that taxes are non-negotiable, ladies and gentlemen. This is a constitutional thing. The government has the right to impose taxes. If you have any problem with that law or the constitution in general, you can simply hop on a plane and go to Entebbe or Eritrea and see if there's any other country that does not abide to the laws of the nation. Furthermore, the question that was asked, explain why people still complain about taxes when they're given according to brackets. My friend, it's because of ignorance. People don't know how taxes work. They think that people are still being oppressed because of taxes. So, it's because of ignorance why people still complain, why people still protest. And my urge to you would be to stay away from that ignorance that's perpetuated in Kenya and on the women on the right side of this room. Furthermore, there's also the issue I'd like to address one problem. Taxes are the most reliable, sustainable, and constant source of public finance. Other sources of public revenue are liable to fluctuation. And look at these examples. Norway, Denmark, and Germany. These countries managed to reduce tax by 32%, reduce debt by 32%, 26%, and 33% respectively. If you think that's a European issue, look at South Africa. They managed to reduce tax by 12% and by 15% in Egypt and South Africa. This has worked in fellow African nations and fellow European nations. Ladies and gentlemen, to quote the words of Julius Caesar, I came, I saw, I conquered. And I believe that is exactly what I did on stage today. Mothers, I'll see you in the retirement home.
Team proposition, kindly give your closing remark.
I will not go to a retirement home. Anyways, you're focusing more on over-rebuttaling our points. Oops, maybe they do not have points. Basis being, because I have not had them give a point on how taxes as the main avenue. I've not had them give a point on how they can improve this tax system to actually fix the public debt. I have not had that, but more focusing on us to rebuttal our system. Anyways, I am saddened that our dear opposers here slept during the English lesson when the teacher said 2 heads are better than 1. More main avenues are better than this one that you're insisting on. What if it fails? You will come and cry back to your mother in the retirement home, insisting I give you my solutions that have been working. You refuse agriculture. I tell you agriculture is the way. You will come crying back to agriculture. And I still insist and I stand firm on my points when I say that we need more main avenues. Taxes can remain, but we need more main avenues introduced. Why don't we introduce infrastructure? Why don't we improve the infrastructure system in the country so that we can actually get the citizens to actually earn more? If they earn more, then these earnings that they earn more can actually be given to the government and they can actually get to repay the huge public debt. I mean, I am tired. I have to pay an entire China debt up to when I die. And I've not even benefiting from it. But people still claim that we should remain with one way, paying taxes. I repeat, 2 heads are better than 1. More main avenues are better than paying taxes. Again, I will not go to a retirement home. Thank you for your time.
Team opposition, you have 1 minute to give your closing remarks.
Ladies and gentlemen, for the final time today, my name is Michael Solomon and I'll be giving the final submission. I would like to start by saying that everything you're talking about, athletics and talent, is not relevant in this debate. We're talking about public debt. If you want to go run, or if you want to go call us runners, do it outside this room because it's not relevant, please. Apart from that, there's also the issue of how will we improve the system. We'll do this through civic education, educating people on the importance of taxes. We'll also do this by calling accountability partners, such as the IMF and International Monetary Fund, to ensure that they are good accountability partners, to ensure that the government is collecting taxes in a reasonable manner. And we also do this through regulating the leaders themselves, ensuring that the leaders are doing what they're supposed to do. Accountability in all ends, whatsoever, whenever, however. Are you happy now that I've given you an explanation? Moving on, there's also that we're not saying that the other ones cannot be supplementary. We are saying that taxes should be the main avenue. That's the bond of contention. Taxes should be the main one. If you want to add other ones, we have no problem. Whatever sector or wherever, you can add it. And as you said we slept in an English class, but looking at your understanding of the debate, I don't think you've been inside an English class. Ladies and gentlemen, that has been my time.
The interest of this debate, it has come to our attention that the judges have added each team 1 minute to convince us why they should be the winners of the Kiambu Region National for senior schools. Therefore, team proposition, you have 1 minute to convince the audience and the judges why your team should take it home today. May the best team win.
I think the person from Alliance was actually hearing us, but were you actually listening to us? You were not. We actually gave a lot of solutions. We gave agriculture 1, we gave industrialization 2, where we introduced tourism. We also gave spending cuts. We also gave investing in talents. We also gave infrastructure. We also gave incorporating. We also gave infrastructure. Someone said that Maryhill, apparently, we did not give statistics. Didn't agriculture, the girl who presented our first proposal, gave the point on agriculture, statistics. She gave her statistics that actually ended up leading to an equation that you didn't work out. That's why you think that you didn't give statistics. So therefore, I again finish it with this. If the plan does not work, change the plan, not the goal. If paying of taxes over the years has not been working, let us change from having taxes as the main avenue. Let us incorporate more of other things. With that, I rest my case. I close it with that. But I leave just a small paving for them to try and beat us through it. Thank you so much. That was my debate.
Team opposition, you have 1 minute.
They have talked about the solutions that they've brought, but what they failed to delve deeper in is that the solutions are going to need more fund. Actually, their third speaker said that the solutions are going to need more funds to be diverted from the taxes, meaning what's going to happen for us to continue living at the same place that we're living, let alone decreasing, right? What's going to happen is we're going to need more money, which means we're going to have to go to more debt, meaning that the solution is just going to come to where we are. And we got a question from someone in that side of the audience. They talked about how taxes have been failing. Right? Sure, they have been failing with the revenue, according to the IMF and the World Bank, of 2 trillion per year. More than any other solutions that they have brought up. 2 trillion. Now imagine if we, as we have said, fix the tax system. How are we going to do that? As my third speaker said, we're going to give in civil education, because a major problem is the fact that people don't know exactly how taxes work. We're going to bring in watchdogs for accountability, like the IMF, the World Bank, and such. We're going to have transparency in the tax systems, and we're going to have simplicity in the operations, right? Exactly. Thank you.
The proponents are Maryhill girls. My question would be, how do we collect revenue from the mentioned alternatives? So from the agriculture, from the talent-based avenues, how do we collect that revenue? So Kalunde, your time management had the bell rang, I think, twice. There was some little bits of confidence that was lacking. Maureen, I like the points on the alternatives you gave us, industrialization, agriculture, spending cuts, and I like the way you organized your thoughts. Kanye, definitely your confidence, your style and presentation. You gave a great rebuttal on why agriculture is not collecting more. You actually mentioned that if agriculture was made to be the main avenue, then maybe it will move from the 40 billion to the 2 trillion. So basically that was a very good rebuttal.
Nova Pioneer Boys. I was also expecting to hear that we are collecting 2 trillion in taxes, but our debt is this big. What do we need to do to bridge that gap? The how was never coming out until the last 1 minute was given. So that actually was a point you kept saying we can improve the system. Improve the system. I kept writing how, you know, until the last minute.
When you see the judges giving you extra time, it means you have convinced them a lot and they are almost unable to make a decision on what you did. We also are cognizant of the fact that in the knockout stages you faced each other and somehow you still scored very high marks to be at this final. So congratulations in all that. Whichever team wins, just know that it was by a whisker and it's because of the little things. It means you're so good. We had now to look at small things like, is your tie adjusted well? You know, those kind of small things that can almost, it means if you're so good at everything else, we now have to look at any other thing that can be used to tackle you down. In the 1 minute though, we saw 2 differences. One team came and explained exactly what they spoke about. The other team came and brought in some new elements which they knew they had forgotten to bring in. All the best to the 2 teams. We can't as well wait for the results.
Thank you very much to both teams, and we'll be announcing the results at our closing ceremony.